These type of gatherings provide us the opportunity to communicate directly, to discuss significant issues on our agendas, and to understand each other better, for forming a closer alliance built upon facts rather than wrong perceptions and biased thoughts. As we understand each other better, we will be more successful in developing successful common strategies and initiatives for the benefit of our nations and our political parties. Today, I would like to focus my speech on the state of play at Turkey-European Union relations, and also dwell on some challenges our party government is facing in this context, as well as the imminent terror threat for the national security of our country. Dear colleagues, it has been more than 55 years that Turkey's journey towards European Union started, as my country had applied for membership to European Economic Community in 1959. Thanks to the hard work and determined steps taken by our party, Turkey managed to start accession negotiation process in 2005 with an agreement that it would be a systematic, technical, and a fair process. There were opening benchmarks, or our homework, so to speak, and then negotiating phase that would include transposition of the European Union law into our national legislation, and then the benchmark for closing the chapters. In other words, verification whether we did our homework or not. It went like this for a while, until it was hijacked by French President Mr. Sarkozy for his domestic political gains, and later by other European Union member states to further their political interests and take account their issues with Turkey in this platform. Despite all this, we have endured these difficult times, and I can still say proudly that the European Union accession process is one of the fundamental aspects of our political vision in Turkey. Since the start of the European Union accession, significant legislative and administrative reforms in the fields of democratization, human rights, and fundamental freedoms were implemented by our party in line with our new Turkey vision. For example, the weight of the international agreements in the Turkish legal system has increased. Several restrictions on the freedom of thought and expression were lifted. We have come a long way in prevention of torture and ill-treatment, as well as improving the laws on gender equality. Transparency, accountability, and participation that are the pillars of a modern democracy became part of our daily lives. And now, after 11 years, we want to continue on. However, there are also some roadblocks ahead that we believe cooperation among us is essential to overcome. We face tough challenges in our neighborhood, both to the north and to the south, as mentioned in the earlier discussions. These challenges seem to be with us for quite a while. This fact alone requires Turkey's inclusion in the equation for any potential solutions to the ongoing crisis in the region. I believe that Turkey's geopolitical position, dynamic economy, young population, the key position for the energy lines, and its active foreign policy in the region, democratic and historical maturity of the nation, and our military capacity should be rightfully and carefully evaluated by our European Union member state allies. I think that these points alone present all the more reason for closer cooperation between our countries. As a higher form of this cooperation, access and negotiations of Turkey should be seen in the light of mutual strategic interests. We should not allow this process to be misused or abused as a bargaining chip for some narrow political gains or for any country's self-interest. Dear colleagues, we welcome first Turkey-European Union Summit on 29th of November 2015 in Brussels, and two more summits within this month. We have finally seen a tangible political will for the revival of accession process for Turkey. According to the preliminary agreements, we will engage in high-level dialogue for economy and energy. We will accelerate visa liberalization process. We will share the burden on refugee crisis with a spatial arrangement, and we will increase our cooperation in the fight against terrorism. We commit ourselves to serious obligations as Turkey, and we expect as Turkish politicians to show extreme caution and sensitivity in their judgments and actions with mutual understanding for the benefit of both sides. However, unfortunately, the European Parliament insists not to come to such an understanding. On 15th of February, the first draft of the Turkey Progress Report was published. In the following days, Foreign Affairs Committee held several meetings to discuss the report, and finally on March 15, it was adopted in the committee. I have to say that I had many things to contend in Mrs. Katipiri's report, like failing to appreciate the reform drive in Turkey. Unfortunately, even from our ranks in the ECR, in the European Parliament, some of our MEPs voiced only concerns, but not any confidence in Turkey. Let me remind you that Turkey is one of the founding members of the Council of Europe and a very old ally in NATO. Even though we are a responsible and a contributing member of this family, we unfortunately feel to be treated with double standards once again. That I have to tell you very honestly. Dear friends, dear colleagues, Turkish government is obliged to fight against any attempts and attacks against the well-being of its citizens, lives, and their property. Turkey has to fight off any attacks against its public order and internal peace, just like any other country would do, as in the case of France in the recent months that we have experienced. Let me tell you about the infamous terrorist organization PKK, a Marxist-Leninist autocratic terrorist group which deals with all kinds of criminal activities all around the region, including Europe, and the offshoots of PKK in Syria, which is called PYD and YPG, for which there was this naive rejoice in the West when it had gained ground against another infamous terrorist organization, Daesh. But please allow me to complete the picture for you. The PKK terrorists, in coordination and collaboration with its affiliates in Syria, carry out daily terror attacks against our security forces in the southeast of Turkey, as well as targeting and killing innocent civilians in our nation's capital, Ankara, with Daesh-type suicide car bombings and any other type of terror activity that you can think of. They have no respect for human life and human dignity. This terror gang also targets civilian and public property. They intimidate Kurdish people socially and politically in the southeast region of Turkey, engage in road ambushes, kidnappings. They destroy schools, hospitals, and ambulances. Shortly, they violate the right of life in any way possible in this country and beyond. PKK and its partners have blood in their hands of more than 40,000 people in Turkey for more than 40 years. Since July 2015, when PKK declared the solution process to be ended, more than 300 of our security officials and 200 civilian lives were lost. 1,740 security personnel and 658 civilians were badly injured. Dear colleagues, let me draw your attention to another picture at this stage. This picture is from Brussels, the heart of the European Union institutions. Last week, we have been in Brussels at the European Parliament for some meetings, and we have witnessed a dreadful scene near the square next to the Parliament. There were some tents, seemingly for protest, but then I realized PKK flags, flyers, and banners that read "Liberty for the Kurdish people" and "Freedom for Öcalan," the leader of Kurds. As far as Turkish Kurds are concerned, their leader is the President of the Turkish Republic. They are equal citizens of this country, loyal to their land. Like all the other citizens of the Republic from different ethnic or religious backgrounds, Turkey is their home, and this state is the only guarantor of their rights and freedoms. There is an insidious narrative that we have shockingly heard in the European circles, and I am astonished to see to the extent that some of the MEPs in the European Parliament, especially claiming to be progressive, lend support to such a narrative which is racist and tribal in nature. According to this narrative, the Kurds that are conservative and vote for AK Party, or any Kurd not cooperative with PKK terrorists, are not real Kurds, but traitors. AK Party represents as legitimately as others do the Kurdish interests and well-being. To make this more clear, let me use an analogy. If you think this narrative is true and HDP is the only true representative of Kurdish interests, then you must think sincerely that any Scotsman that did not vote for the Scottish National Party, or anyone voted to stay within the United Kingdom in 2014, practically a traitor as well. So all the Unionist MPs of the House of Commons are all but traitors, and their legacy is nothing but a false one, and they are actually disloyal to their identity. Dear friends, there is a second analogy that I would like to use to express how we feel about this ambivalence in the West towards PKK that I realized when I see these tents in Brussels. How would we feel if the terror organization Daesh, let's say, would put up tents in the central Maidan of Cairo or Ankara
with its ominous black flag and banners, liberty for the European Muslims, and inciting them to revolt. Would you still look at such picture and say without slightest care, yes, that's unfortunate, but it is freedom of expression, so we can't really do anything about that? I think you would not. Dear colleagues, even though how much they try to pretend to the opposite, PKK neither represents Kurds nor their aspirations. PKK and PYD are execution squads. They harm Kurds' well-being in Turkey more than any other group and threaten the harmonious diversity of this nation. And it is as clear as daylight that Turkey has no choice but to fight against all kinds of terrorism and defend its national integrity. For those ignorantly accusing Turkey of attacking the Kurds, quote unquote, I would like to remind it was Turkey who opened its borders to over 200,000 Syrian Kurds that escaped from Daesh's brutality. Same thing happened when the Kurds in Iraq were massacred by Saddam's regime. Turkey opened its arms for our Kurdish brothers and sisters. We still host most of them, meeting their needs. They don't choose to go back to Kobani or northern Syria because of the autocratic and brutal nature of the PYD, PKK-related groups there. Kurds are our citizens, they are our relatives, they are our brothers and sisters, and they are our colleagues, business partners, everywhere, very well mixed in Turkey. Again, those charging Turkey with fighting against terrorism and illegitimate parallel state structures which aim to overthrow Mr. Erdogan's government in the past, disproportionately seem to forget to which extent they take measures when terrorists hit them on their soils or there is a security challenge to their national well-being. How did France react after the Paris attacks? Are we aware that there is still state of emergency in France? We rightly expect to be judged by the same standards that they judge themselves. International community must have a principled approach against all types and kinds of terrorism. I invite the members of the European Parliament to respect the truth by evaluating the picture in its wholeness regarding my country, Turkey. Lastly, I want to touch on an important matter that deserves a lengthy talk: Britain's exit from European Union. Will UK leave the European Union or remain with the new terms? Let me say that as Turkey, we want United Kingdom to remain in the European Union. I think European Union is better and stronger with United Kingdom. We believe United Kingdom to be the voice of common sense and reason in the European Council and hope it continues to be so. Dear friends, at the end of my speech, I would like to express my wish that we want to see positive contributions from our allies at the European Parliament or in other similar platforms. Turkey and AK Party have always been open to constructive criticism. I want you to know that we attach sincere importance to the accession process and negotiating new chapters. I also hope that we may work hand in hand in alleviating the refugee crisis and stopping further human suffering in our neighborhood. Thank you.